Welcome to Biztech's Enterprise Technology Show. Hi, I'm Brian Fernandez, and today we have our guest, Craig Nielsen. He's the Vice President of Asia Pacific and Japan at GitLab. Nasdaq-listed GitLab is a complete DevOps platform delivered as a single application, fundamentally changing the way development, securities, and ops teams collaborate and build software. Now, to tell us more, welcome to the show, Craig.
Brian, it is great to be with you.
Now, Craig, tell us a little bit about GitLab and what the company does.
Sure, Brian. Firstly, perhaps what I'll do is just set a little bit of current market context. And I'm not sure if you've heard it, I'm sure you have it. Every company today is a software company, and we've been saying that for a while. But this has never been more acute than today. And what do I mean by that? Every organization has to engage, support, transact, delight customers through omni-channel engagement. I don't care whether you're a bank, whether you're a government, whether you're a telco, a retailer, logistics company, an airline. Customers are wanting that omni-channel experience with your organization. And if I put it even quite bluntly, is organizations that are going to be really fast at innovating their omni-channels with quality are going to take market share. And candidly, those that don't do it fast enough or without quality are going to lose market share. And so that's kind of the environment that we are addressing from a DevOps perspective, is how do we help organizations build better software faster? Some interesting stats. This will be a bit of memory lane. YouTube from 2005 to 2009, they took 4 years and 1 month to hit 100 million users. More recently, it took TikTok 9 months to hit 100 million users. Twitter in 2006 took 5 years and 5 months to hit 100 million users. It took Threads 5 days to hit 100 million users. So that data set just shows you just the speed and velocity, how things are changing and what's in play for our customers.
So then give us a sense of what your product offerings are, Craig, and how you're helping customers solve these problems.
Yeah. So firstly, we partner with our customers to play a transformational role in helping them build better ways of creating value through software and customer experiences. What do we do? Like, what's our secret sauce? Firstly, what we bring to the market is optionality that they haven't previously had. If you go back 4 years and you're a CIO and you're going to build a platform engineering organization, you're going to have to essentially do a DIY assembly of tools. And there's hundreds of tools out there. Your developers have preferences, different preferences, by the way. And every company's historically assembled DIY tool chains, and they all look a little bit different. GitLab's long-term strategy has been to focus on the enterprise development process and look for opportunities to take pain, friction, and inefficiencies out of the enterprise that they've had to live with through those DIY tool chains. So, what do we hear from customers? We hear from customers like, hey, what do we get from GitLab? We love having a common data plane where we can see end-to-end all the workflows in our organization. We have common automation plane across DevOps. We have a common security plane, and we have a common AI plane. So all of these areas of visibility and execution and control points were always tough to control when you're in a fragmented environment.
And that's a big improvement, because one of the key challenges with a lot of organizations, and large organizations in particular, is just the disparity of tools because of different projects or innovations that different development teams in different markets have been using. Because as you correctly pointed out, everyone sometimes has their own preferences and stuff. And this probably also then helps from a documentation standpoint, the organizations from a long-term basis to keep that knowledge of those systems as well in-house.
Exactly. And one of the interesting stats, we do an annual DevOps survey every year, and data changes. This data is different for different industries and geos even. But generally, we find that developers are spending about 25% of their time writing code. And so we look at, wow, people are often surprised when they hear that stat because they intuitively think developers will spend 80% of their time writing code. Well, it's actually not true. It's about 25% of their time. So what are they doing with the rest of the time? Well, they're in meeting, they talk to planners, they're trying to understand code, they're trying to remediate code. But there's a huge chunk of time that most organizations, developers are spending maintaining custom integrations, upgrading point tools, waiting for the person who's on leave who understands the tool that doesn't get used that often to come back so they can figure out how to fix a pipeline issue. So we find an enormous amount of inefficiency. And customers that use GitLab and transform DevOps through using GitLab really get big gains in that developer productivity space.
Now, in terms of productivity as well, I'm sure that a lot of GitLab tools are low-code or no-code solutions, again, to improve inefficiencies or efficiencies, whichever way you look at it. Walk us through some of those things and what sort of savings are we looking at in terms of time?
So maybe a way that I could do that, Brian, is to maybe share a case study with you, which we're really excited by. It's a local organization, so Agoda. Everyone knows Agoda. So, Agoda has a global network of 3.6 million hotels and holiday properties. Agoda is a platform that's available in 39 languages. It's actually headquartered in Singapore. They're amazing. They're an amazing organization. And what they had when we first started working with them was a complex tool chain. They had 9 primary tools in their organization, and they had to maintain and service and integrate those tools as best they could do that. And they were spending a lot of time chasing upgrades and security patches and struggling with inconsistent service levels across all of that different tooling. So, like all organizations, there is a clear focus on cost cutting, but they wanted not only cost cut, but they also wanted to increase software security and quality. So we've been engaging with them for a couple of years. They've replaced a number of tools and moved those capabilities onto GitLab. What's really interesting with all the transformation that they've done around modernizing their tool chains is the GitLab tool is one of the highest ranked tools within Agoda. Every quarter they do internal surveys of what tools developers like. This gets a really high rating. So, and you don't often see that where you get organizations that are going to transform an existing stack. It takes time for the users to get comfortable with the new stuff. We not only did Agoda through great program management, great execution, transform that, but they also they achieve really high developer approval ratings. So what's the outcome? So Agoda's been able to set up and enforce security policies, shift left earlier in their DevOps lifecycle. They have decreased their build queue time by 98%. Their metrics suggest a 17% boost in developer happiness scores, and they estimate they've saved 3,000 hours of developer time per quarter. So, hitting both sides of that equation, Brian, of productivity and cost, and keeping developers happy is also very important. Talent is scarce in the marketplace, and clearly something is we want to give developers tool chains that they enjoy working on. I'll leave you with a quote from the person that ran this project. It's a really great operator, Nadav Robas, who heads up DevOps at Agoda. I'll read this. Now I have a single source of truth for governance, compliance, and security audits. I also have traceability from artifact to code commit. And that was all hard to do prior to GitLab.
Now, when you were explaining that case study, Craig, you know, a lot of things comes to mind. Because I speak to regional leaders, I see the application, and we want to get your insights into a scenario I'm going to point out. I'm going to wear the hat of a CIO of a large conglomerate in Indonesia, Thailand, or the Philippines. This is a common problem. I have 180, 150 subsidiaries. I've got various businesses. I've got a a plethora of tools. I spend so much time just trying to keep up with the security patches. I spend so much time trying to figure out how to get everything integrated together that really I should be looking at streamlining my processes. What advice would you give a CIO in this sort of space, and how can GitLab help these type of organizations, which there are a lot in ASEAN?
Yeah, that's a great question. So look, the first couple of things. Firstly, there's going to be 3 areas of value that we can create for a CIO. The first area is cost takeout, like simplifying the architecture. Candidly, actually, often we start conversations with CIOs around that because that's tangible for CIOs, and it sort of hits an immediate pressure point. Then we start analyzing how much time we're going to save those developers by just taking the noise and the friction and the context switching out. That often is higher value from a numbers point of view, from an ROI point of view, than just the cost takeout. And the highest return we can actually give a CIO is around productivity. Like, it's orders of magnitude. We've just done a Forrester research piece where they've looked at a whole lot of data, a whole lot of customers, and we can achieve, I think, top of my head, 473% ROI in 6 months. And a lot of that is generated through the developer productivity increases we can bring. That's one perspective. The second perspective is, I think CIOs have done a great job, Brian, over the last decade or so. When I look at their network infrastructure, they've implemented SASE, they've got control points in the cloud. When I look at end user computing, that's really under control, really tightly controlled. The security, risk footprint seems to be tightly managed there. When we look at their security architecture or their security fabric, significantly strengthened, great observability. They've got great security fabrics in most organizations. Looking at moving apps on and off the cloud and between clouds and visibility on the hyperscalers, I think that's really quite mature. What CIOs today don't have, hand on heart, is real visibility on DevOps productivity. We know that there is supply chain risk inside of DevOps. Many of our customers, in fact, many of our largest customers, are regulated. And the challenge with those regulated customers is those DevOps teams actually spending a ton of time trying to, often very unsuccessfully, assemble disparate reporting to feed the regulators. And because that reporting is coming from different systems that don't think the same way or have the same data architecture, often that reporting doesn't align. And so from my perspective, this is one of the most obvious places for a CIO to say, I want to clean this up. I want to make it more efficient. I want to take costs out. I want to have visibility all across this. I want to have a common security plane, common data plane, common workflow plane. And when I've got that, I can build a maturity model because I can see what's going on and how much progress we're making, quarter by quarter, etc. So we're starting to see a lot of progressive CIOs really take an interest in this. And then to my point up at the front, when we're saying, well, what's in play if we get this right and what's in play if we get this wrong? well, what's in play is our customers will be able to take more share in their markets because of the speed and the quality of the experiences they can bring to their customers. And that's a very desirable thing.
And to your point, and this was a discussion that I had with another tech leader as well. The key thing is around the fact that solutions like GitLab will empower companies to build on top of some of the stuff that they already help, and then innovate a lot quicker instead of starting a whole new project and building the basic building blocks which are already there.
Exactly. And you spoke about a conglomerate. We're working with some leading public sector organizations in Asia where they're taking big leaps forward in having code shared across multiple agencies so they don't have to reinvent everything. I have a problem, I'm in an agency, wow, I can now have visibility and see that another agency solved almost exactly the same problem. Let me start with that piece of code. So yeah, it completely makes sense at kind of every level.
So looking ahead to 2025 now, what's next for GitLab, and what are you seeing across the Asia Pacific region for GitLab?
Yeah, so hey, I think we're going to see the relentless drumbeat on our CIO partners to deliver more with the same or less resources, and we're up for the challenge, Brian. We can help. And not just help with tech, because that's only part of the solution. We can help with process, and we can help with adoption and de-risking that for customers. I think there's a lot of discussion around how do we experiment responsibly with AI, and I think a big chunk of the market's already had that first round of experimentation, maybe had some mixed results. Again, we're as a company, GitLab is in a great position because we're an end-to-end platform. We got so many different points where we can actually apply AI to improve an outcome or a process or augment what a developer needs to do or short circuit a problem. And we're really excited by how much of that we're innovating and bringing to market. Data sovereignty still remains a risk in this part of the world. Or certainly a concern for our customers is probably a better way of framing it. And our response at GitLab to that is we're super committed to parity, very close parity alignment between our on-prem versions and our cloud SaaS versions. We don't want to penalize our customers that want to run on-prem for data sovereignty reasons with a super low featured product. We want to make sure they're getting all the features that we're building into our SaaS platform. So we have very close parity between on-prem and cloud. That's important in Asia for us. I see the evolving threat landscape continuing. We are going to continue to see supply chain risks, inside software factories. And obviously that plays really closely to where we're innovating, and a key strength of ours is shifting left and embedding security, compliance, and risk assurance into the core platform, so that customers can move away from we have a policy and we've told the dev team to apply to the policy to a position where they can view the enforcement of that policy within GitLab, within the pipelines that have been created. And then lastly, and this is for all of us, is attracting and retaining talent. Brian, great development resources is hard to get. And so again, we've got to value developers. We've got to give them great tools, and we got to, developers don't want to be spending 25% of their time building code. They actually want to be spending a lot more. So let's give them platforms that allow them to do that.
Craig, it's been a great conversation, and really you've updated me in terms of some of the key developments that is in this space right now. But before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
Look, Sorry, can we pause on that one, Brian? I hadn't actually thought of.
No problem, because this will get edited.
Yeah. Let me just think of.
I should have. I forgot to prep you on that. Just the final
That's all right.
thought is around. You know what, Craig? Key takeaways for customers, so that here's what normally happens then. The 50 to 70-year-old guy who's sitting in the backseat of the car forwards it because of this key takeaway to his CIO or CISO or something like that.
Um,
And I can ask you the question again.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds, mate.
No
Because it's a
problem.
good one, and I want to knock it out of the park. And
Yeah.
I think it's the question.
Yeah.
So. All right, shoot, Brian.
Okay. Craig, it's been a fascinating conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm making some mental notes actually as you were speaking. But before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
Thanks, Brian. Really enjoyed talking with you. Yeah. So look, what I would say to your audience of senior executives is your ability to engage your marketplaces digitally is only going to become more important. If you don't have great visibility into DevOps in terms of productivity, if you're struggling to enforce risk and compliance in DevOps, like, hey, we hope it's secure, we're not sure it's completely secure. And if you'd like to really look at opportunities to deploy AI accelerators across the whole DevOps lifecycle, we'd love to engage with your audience. Of course, as we engage, we recognize the value of technology, but we're mostly interested in understanding with your audience what capabilities they think they need in future DevOps, and work with them on a plan of how technology can enhance and create that for them.
Craig, on that note, thank you for taking your time to be on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Terrific. Great talking with you, Brian. Have a great day.
Now, we've been speaking to Craig Nielsen. He's the Vice President for Asia Pacific and Japan at GitLab. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been watching and listening to the Enterprise Technology Show. This interview will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.